Awesome. That's fantastic. I think I see a couple more trying to get in the last couple of minutes. If you're just logging in, guys, I just wanted to reiterate there is a button along the top that says chat. We're going to be doing a question answer. I was going to try to do the questions as they come up. So if you have a question, please type in and you go right ahead and you just type into the little chat box area, and then just make sure that that chat box area, when you're sending the question, just send it private. If you've logged in through your cell phone, if you could just hit mute on your cell phone, just because there's quite a few people that have called in. And yeah, so if you can just hit mute, that would be so awesome. I will go through and mute anybody that can't find the mute button. So if you could turn your volume down or turn your volume off, that would be awesome. And again, guys, if you want to type in questions, please do so, and just make sure that the questions, you can send them right to the presenter or to me, and then I will keep going through the questions as they keep coming up and try to answer them as best as I can. And first off, before I even get started, I just want to take like 2 seconds to say thank you so much, because I know it's such a busy, busy time, and everyone is running around trying to get their Christmas shopping done, and it is extremely, extremely busy time. But I am so grateful that you guys took some time out of your night tonight just to sit in on this. This is the first time I'm doing something kind of in a mass forum like this, and so far from it's looking like the people logging in, it's looking like a good way to do things. So in the comfort of your own home. Now, also I would like to say, I don't know if you guys can see that there in my webcam, but Tim Hortons, if for anyone that's in the Niagara region, Tim Hortons brought their green tea, just their regular green tea and their peppermint tea back. So now you can go back to the old school, 1 green, 1 peppermint, and you are totally good to go, because that was a little bit of a panic for a while when they were only offering that green lemongrass, and not that I hated it, but anyways, back to the normal. So again, guys, thank you so much for taking some time tonight. Before we do get started, a teeny bit of housekeeping for the people that just joined in. I'm sorry to keep reiterating this, but there is a chat box along the top. Please type in any questions and they will come directly to me. Make sure you do click that it's sending it to the host, and I will be able to go through the questions at that time. So this webinar is a little bit, shouldn't say a little bit more specific, but the webinar that I'm going to give tonight is really trying to stay on the challenge-friendly lifestyle. And I know when we're on the challenge, it is, I shouldn't say easy to stay on, but it's weirdly easy to stay motivated when you know there's, everyone's doing the exact same thing. We're all doing in the same timely fashion. It's like you can stay pumped, and you've got a start date and you've got an end date. And people always say, oh, is the challenge hard? I'm like, the challenge isn't hard. The challenge is like, it is what it is. It's 8 weeks. Anyone can get through that. What I really do believe is the real challenge. We should almost rebrand the lifestyle part of it as the real challenge. But 8 weeks is the 8 weeks of the kickstart, and then the challenge finishes, and there becomes this big kind of question lingering. How do we keep that going? Like, how do we keep this, or how do we keep the momentum going in our own lifestyle? And really, that is something that that's why I'm so glad we're doing this tonight. It's a question that comes up all the time, and it definitely is something that is everyone's biggest challenge. And I don't want you to think that you're alone in this. Obviously, there's a lot of people logging in tonight that are thinking the exact same things, myself as well. So I don't want you to think you're alone in this. This is absolutely the #1 question that comes up over and over and over. So I have a couple tips, and I'm going to break down a couple very, very key points that has taken me a lot of years to figure out. So I always say if I figured it out over all these years, hopefully I can share a little bit of insight so that yours doesn't take as long as mine did. But when I say that, because I was a real, I would be on the challenge, and this is, goodness, it's Briar and I's challenge. I mean, we started this, and after the challenge was finished, I would fall pretty hardcore afterwards. Excuse me, at the very beginning, fall pretty hardcore afterwards, and kind of like go, oh my goodness, I haven't had this in so long, and maybe go back and the other way. So that's where I want to say, it definitely is something that needs to be addressed and talked about. So that's where we're going to go tonight. Ours is going to be a little bit more of a kind of like a holiday theme to it as well, as you can see with that first slide. But Christmas is coming, as we all know, which means it's party after party after party after party, and that's really an interesting part to finishing the challenge at this time. But you're in such a great kind of positive mode, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, the challenge ends, and we have 6 parties to attend, and you're giving 4 parties yourself, and it just can get kind of out of hand. So my very, very first big point when you are trying to make this more of a lifestyle change is, I know I speak about this so much during the challenge, but when I say challenge friendly, I cannot be more strong in my conviction when I say it's added sugar. It is added sugar, added sugar, added sugar, and I've just put a little quote box up there that says, eat less sugar, you're sweet enough already, which is so true. I mean, when it comes down to it, there is so much added sugar in our products, which obviously we all know because you've just been through the challenge. So when I'm saying about the added sugars after the challenge, a lot of times challengers will say to me, Bon, what about honey now? What about maple syrup? Things that seem like a little bit more of a natural sweetener. I'm not saying they're horrid. I'm not going to tell you you have to come off them for the whole rest of your life. I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of self-reflection just to see, is that a problem for you? If it's not a problem for you and you're like, you know what, I'm pretty good. Like, I'm not, really craving sweets all the time. If you have a little bit of honey in a baked good, or a little bit of maple syrup on some challenge-friendly pancakes, then, it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. But on the flip side, if you have a sweet tooth like I do, for me, I'm not, I like a treat. I would like a sweet treat. My husband is more of a salty, or he would like a really great, big, huge honkin' steak. I don't really care about steak, but in the end, if you gave me a cupcake, which I had the other night because it was my birthday, and had a pretty awesome cupcake with some really awesome icing, that would be what I would pick, hardcore. So because I have that sweet tooth, I really do, and I can't, I really shouldn't say all the time, but really it is 95% of the time, is I don't eat any of that excess sugar or honey or maple syrup or any of that. As we know, with a lot of the challenge-friendly baked goods, there's dates added to the baked goods that have, obviously there's a natural sugar there. There is, goodness, the apple butter. So obviously you're getting some sugar. It's just, for me, I try to really cut it back big time. Now, if you are going to kind of veer and you say, you know what, I just want to go pick up one of those pumpkin spice lattes, and you're like, what the heck is these pumpkin spice lattes? This is something of a little bit of an image that I wanted to show you, but I wanted to show you it for a reason, because I don't care if you have one of these because that's your treat and that's what you want. Or say, I think right now there's like a gingerbread latte out right now and different things like that. I just want you to be aware of the extra sugar that's added to the drink. So I don't know if you can see it in there. About halfway down, it says this particular pumpkin spice latte for a grande is 50 grams of sugar. And again, you might be going, okay, Bon, what does my 50 grams mean again? And I'm just going to flip to the next chart, and then I'm going to go back to this. But when you take your grams of sugar, you divide by 4, and it will tell you how many teaspoons were added. So again, coming back to our pumpkin spice latte. That pumpkin spice latte, in the end, is a whole heck of a lot of sugar, as my thing is starting to freeze on me here. Bear with me, guys. It is definitely a lot of sugar. Actually, this particular one is 12.5 teaspoons of sugar, which you go, well, 12.5 teaspoons of sugar. I should have actually brought my sugar bowl out just so I could dump it in and show you. Guys, I bet you that would be at least 1/4 to 1/3 of the bottom of that drink. The only reason why I'm giving this as an example, I'm not saying, never ever have this as a treat. I'm just saying be aware. So when you are having something like that and you're like, you know what, I'm going Christmas shopping and we're going to Starbucks and I'm going to get a latte or one of the sweeter drinks, then just know that that would be equivalent to having, you know, like a big, huge cookie, because that's what it is. And a lot of times when we're drinking our drinks, there's a real misconception out there that the sugar is not in there, but it is. And in order to maintain everything that you're doing, I know I speak about it all the time, but in order to maintain everything that you just accomplished, it's sugar. So if you tell yourself on a treat, on, you know, on a veer or something that you're going to kind of slide off to the side, I would try pretty hardcore to not let it go nuts and crazy with the added sugar, because sugar itself is really addicting. So if you come off the challenge, which you are right now, and then all of a sudden you flip to a lot of, you know, baked goods that are not challenge friendly and a lot of sugary drinks like, you know, things like this, I hate to say it, but you will gain that sweet tooth back like that. It comes back so quickly, and it can be a really quick downward spiral, and I don't want you to go there. So that's why I just want you to be aware. Like I said before, please don't feel like you ever can't indulge, but I would definitely try to stay clear a little bit. Again, always, if you are looking at what your levels or sugar levels are, just a reminder, you take your sugar grams, you divide by 4, and that will tell you how many teaspoons. So that's my tip number 1. I hate to, you know, beat that horse to death because I talk about it 24/7, but that's how strongly I feel about it. It's gigantic, gigantic. Now, tip number 2, here we go, we're flying. When you are out and about, now I'm talking about party mode now because we're going into party mode, or you could already be in party mode big time, but I want you to pick or bring challenge-friendly food when you go. Ideally, I would love you to eat before you even go. So if you eat yourself a really great meal before you even attend, because ideally you're not going to be parking yourself, you know, down by the food tray and all of a sudden you've eaten everything on their platter. So be really selective when you're out, but when you're out and about, again, eat your own food because you brought it. If you're at a friend's house for dinner, if you're at a party or whatever it is, I'm going to get to that a little bit later on. Don't stress out about it. If they don't have something challenge-friendly, they don't. There's nothing you can do about it, but just try to make the best choices that are there, and especially if you bring something, I typically like to bring some type of dip, and for me personally, if you don't want to cook, guys, and if you're pressed for time, there's a really great dip at Costco, and it's called the Greek jalapeno yogurt dip that is so flippin' fantastic. That's so, I mean, no one would ever realize that it's challenge-friendly because it's so darn good. Not that challenge-friendly food's not good, but just it's really, really great. So if you're in a pinch and you don't want to make anything, go pick yourself up some blue corn chips or your bonitos, which I'm in love with. Guys, the black bean bonitos are my absolute hands-down favorite. I think there's a white bean bonito as well, but keep your eyes open for them because they're popping up quite readily at different stores. I know Freshco's carrying them now. I think Food Basics carries them as well, but theirs carries them. Also, Bulk Barn carries them too. But those, I usually bring those to a party along with some carrot chips, some hummus, and maybe a little bit of salsa and blue corn chips. So if you are stuck and you are just, oh gosh, I've got no time to whip anything together, who cares? Just pop into a grocery store, pick that stuff up on the way. At least you're, you know, presenting your host with something, and you can help yourself as you're there as well. If you overeat, because everyone's going to overeat on the holidays, whether we're on the holidays or not, it is a real struggle to not overeat at parties, and a lot of times it's revolved around food. I don't want you to think, oh, great, you can't have anything, but just try to be a little bit mindful that when you are consuming, it's not, like I said before, eating the entire tray. So also, I love to bring some type of dessert. Now, I put a picture of the, it's the black bean brownies with the coconut icing with the strawberry, obviously. But that was in the holiday recipe guide that I sent out last week. So I would say that's a winner, hands down winner, and looks awesome to bring to a party. So that's a really great one. Anything in that guide, guys, you will absolutely love. Oh, you know what? I think I sent this in an email. Oh, I've got it here. You know what? I've got it on here too. This recipe, these chocolate almond thumbprint cookies, oh my gosh, they are absolutely, I can't even stress it enough. I don't know if you guys can on your computer there at your house. If you can click on this and save it if you haven't already, I'll send all of these in kind of like show notes after the fact. But these cookies, can't stress it enough, so darn awesome. Okay, I'm going back to my thing over here. But definitely bring something like that to a party, park yourself there. That's my tip number 2, guys. Now, for my tip number 3 is pretty, we've talked about it. I'm going to broaden out that talk just a little bit, is sticking to the 80-20 rule. So this quote here I really think sums it up pretty well. It's perfectly fine to not be perfect all the time, and that's really what I'm talking about when I say the 80-20 rule. So it doesn't have to be 100% all the time. It just is, you know, try as best as you possibly can be. 80% of the time, bang on. 20% are those parties. Or, you know, going to a friend that is going and hanging out at a girlfriend's house and you're having some wine. Who cares? That's the real who cares. But when you're in the house, one of Briar and I, one of our old assistant managers, has a really kind of neat take on this. And what she does is she doesn't bring anything into the house that is not challenge friendly. So that's interesting. Like if you really sit there and think about it and go, okay, everything that's coming in is going to be challenge friendly in a prepared format. So that means your crackers, that means your hummus, that means, oh goodness, your dips, that means your dressings, that means everything you bring in that's prepared or kind of from a grocery store is going to be challenge friendly. If you wanted something that is not challenge friendly, if the kids are asking, and I do this constant because in the end, if this is what the kids are asking for, and if my children say, hey, mommy, I want some non-challenge friendly cookies, I don't feel like I deprive them. I mean, oh, they can have them. It's just I would never buy a box of, say, Oreo cookies and keep them in the house. Just because for me, I feel like if they're there, then they're going to get eaten, whether they eat them, whether my husband eats them. Now I'm crazy, I'm working late, and now I'm going and eating Oreo cookies. It's all wrong, and it goes all wrong really fast. So that's where I want you to, I hate to say that, you know, no one has any self-control. That's not what I'm going with. It's just you want to set yourself up for as much success as possible. And by bringing in a whole slew full of groceries that are not challenge friendly, sometimes can set you up for a little bit of failure. So that's why give yourself the best opportunity for success, and the best opportunity for success is to make sure that all of the great things are readily on hand. So that's the 80-20 rule in her world. That's what she does, which I like. I like for the kids, for my kids as well. 80% of my kids' food, I guess you would say, in the house is challenge friendly. That's how I'm cooking, so they're going to eat it. I mean, I don't really want to make a whole bunch of zillion different meals. I'm not saying they eat everything my husband and I eat every night, but pretty much they're pretty good. It's taken some time. So if your kids are not jumping on the bandwagon and kind of going, oh, you know, great, I'm going to eat this, I've got two different trains of thought with that. If the kids are really resisting, like big time, then what I want you to do is get yourself completely 1 billion% settled first. What I mean by that is that sometimes if this is your first time on the challenge, or if this is very new to you and this is your first time finishing, then it might be still quite a bit of a struggle for yourself to kind of stay pretty diligent and keep on board with it. So sometimes to try to convert a child that's really resisting, not to say that it's not doable, I just mean try really hard to focus hardcore on yourself first, and then you'll find it interesting. They'll come along. It's going to take some time, but it definitely does come along with the territory that they will resist, and they'll resist for a little while. But again, don't deprive them. So if they're wanting a Timbit, and who cares, you know, pick them up a Timbit if that's what the case is. What does it matter? I mean, that's the 20%. That's where I'm saying pick your battles, and really pick your battles with yourself as well. So that's when it comes to the 80-20 rule from kind of like a very broad perspective. A question just came in, actually. I'm just going to jot that down. But a question just came in Could I do the 80-20 rule every day? What do I think about the idea of 80% of the time being challenge friendly and 20% not so much? I've got mixed ideas about that. I would say for me personally, that doesn't work. That's just me personally. It totally doesn't work for my brain and who I am, and I like to stay pretty good throughout the day because I pick in advance. So if I know, okay, I mean, like I said, my birthday was earlier on this week. I knew we were, actually my mom and my sisters and I went out for lunch in Burlington at a place called the Lettuce Love Cafe, which is so friggin' awesome. You will love it. So that was totally challenge friendly, but I knew in the nighttime, my husband was bringing home dinner and it wasn't going to be challenge friendly, and he was bringing home some cupcakes and things like that. So I picked it. I picked it in advance. I knew that's what it was going to be. It's my birthday. I'm celebrating. I'm enjoying. No big deal. But if I was to say every day, I've had many challengers ask me this in the past. What if I love, chocolate, and what if I just had chocolate every single day, and that's my 20%? The only reason why I think that doesn't necessarily work all that well is it creeps up, and the 80-20 weirdly sometimes throughout the day, maybe 1 week in becomes an 80-20, yes, but then the next week it becomes more of like a 70-30, and then by 5 weeks after the challenge, it's back to like an 80-20, but in the reverse. It's like 20% of the time is, 20% challenge friendly and 80% is kind of a whole bunch of garbage that all just kind of slid in there. So I would like to suggest for you to pick it in advance throughout the week. So if you know you're going out for dinner on a Friday night, maybe it's a little bit of, maybe you're going out for a big breakfast on a big brunch on a Sunday morning, something like that, but you know your food's not going to be that great, then pick it and go, you know what, those are the days and that's as good as it gets. But that also means for the rest of the days, you pack your regular lunch like you were, packing it for work. Maybe you're going out for lunch for work or going out for your work dinners, things like that. Choose challenge-friendly options, because that's when you are making those decisions or making those choices, you already know when your cheat days are going to be that week. And I find that really powerful, that it's a lot easier to tell your brain, no, I'm good, and you still order an awesome challenge-friendly lunch. I mean, it still tastes great. It's just you're not ordering the chicken fingers and fries. You're not ordering the big burgers and fries and onion rings and things like that. So try really hard to look at your entire week and pick in advance and see if that helps out a little bit, rather than that constant every day of always having a treat. Because then if you're needing a treat every single day, I mean, I love saying this over and over, but Tracy, our holistic nutritionist, always likes to say, Bon, if you are having a treat every single day, that's not a treat, it's a habit. And I think that's pretty powerful. And I'm going to say it again. So if you have a treat every single day, it's a habit. And I think there's a huge, huge truth to that, that it becomes now more routine. It's a lot of that time when I speak quite heavily about trying to cut out the nighttime eating or the late night snacking. That's hard. That's hard, and that's huge. It makes a huge, huge, gigantic difference in your patterns of eating, but also makes a huge, gigantic difference in your health, and your body is able to actually repair and all your damage-free radicals when your body isn't digesting all the time. So it's like you digest during the day, fantastic. Ideally, I would love to see you shut it down after dinner. No food past dinner, at least a couple days a week, at least, guys. I would say at least 3 days a week, no food past dinner, only water and herbal tea, just to really help the body just keep cleansing and staying on that path. And that really, really will make such an incredible, incredible difference. So I hope that answers your question that came in about the 80-20 rule, about, every day. If by any chance, by picking your cheat day, or your cheat dinner, or whatever it is, if by picking that doesn't necessarily work for you, and maybe your personality is that you would rather have a cheat every day, then you go right ahead. You have your cheat every day, but just be really, really mindful of your cheats. This brings me to my next point. So my next point, tip number 4, pick your cheats wisely. Now, this is huge, gigantic. I'm going to say it again. Pick your cheats wisely. So I am not here to say that you can never have one of those pumpkin spice lattes. I'm not here to say that you can't have a cup of coffee. I'm not here to say that you're never going to have alcohol. Give me a break. We know that's not true. You're going to have, you know, a cupcake on your birthday. You're going to be having stuff. That's just the way it is. That's life, and I don't want you to feel like, oh, man, you know, it always has to be that all or none. It's not. This is really where pick your cheats wisely. So I picked this kind of point about alcohol as I'm sitting here. Sorry, guys, I need to take a drink of my tea. So when you're picking your alcohol, again, alcohol creeps into our world. It creeps in at functions. Even if you're at home, you know, sitting and having a nice dinner with your spouse or with your partner, or maybe sometimes I heard a challenger the other day tell me that they were folding laundry and thought, oh my gosh, I just want to open up a bottle of wine to get through the folding of the laundry, which I get it. It's a day-to-day battle. It's exactly it. Some days are good and some days, oh man, it can get tough. So pick your cheats wisely. What I'm saying when it comes to that, these are your best options if you're going to be drinking. So first option, kind of those first two options go together. These are my number one suggestions. If you are going to have a red wine, have a very dry red wine if you can. Also, that's what Briar drinks. My drink of choice is a vodka soda water. I put rum, whiskey, and tequila there. That tastes like garbage with soda water, just saying, but if you can drink it, you go right ahead, with a little bit of lime. So I would say having the vodka soda water with your lime, having that or having your glass of dry red wine is really, truly, it's not that big of a cheat. So I don't want you to think, oh man, I've just blown it. You haven't. But I am going to go back on and kind of recount something that we said during the challenge. When you are eating or drinking, if you're going to a party, or you're going to a function, you're going to a wedding, whatever, Christmas party, if you're going to eat, eat. If you are going to drink, drink. But good God, don't do both at the same time. Because if you have decided that night you were going to go hog wild and crazy on your food, and all this food is, oh my gosh, look at all this food, and then all of a sudden you start drinking, it is going to be insane. Now, and I don't mean necessarily just insane that night. Your stomach is going to kill you and go, oh my gosh, what have I just done to myself? And you're going to feel like you ran over by a truck. So I like you to pick either one. So if you're not a big drinker, then fantastic. You can go a little bit more lenient on your food choices. But in the end, if you do like to have some drinks when you're out at a party, I would be so diligent with your food. I cannot stress it enough. That's what I do. So if I'm at a party, again, I stick to pretty much all challenge-friendly food as much as I possibly can, and then I'll have my vodka soda water. My husband and I had gone away a couple weekends ago during the wedding, actually. We'd gone away a couple weekends ago, and I was going to be having drinks that weekend. But it's really easy for me now to pick challenge-friendly food no matter where we are, obviously, because I'm looking at menus every day looking for challengers, so I've got the options there. But I do want you to know it's doable. So it's completely doable from functions. It's completely doable at weddings. It's completely doable at conferences, completely doable at restaurants. So, I mean, we went out for pretty much breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the whole time we were away. And there's always a challenge-friendly choice at pretty much every location you are at. So stay away from the sugary mixes in the drinks. The reason why I say that is, again, when maybe you're having a vodka and now all of a sudden they've got all these sugary mixes in there, it would be like you having 3 glasses of red wine. It's the equivalent calorically. And I don't want you to think I'm ever sitting here counting calories, but it really does. It can add up, and it can add up very, very quickly. This next slide goes over that. And looking at from a caloric standpoint, and again, I don't want you to think we're sitting here counting calories. I just wanted to give you an idea. So if you have, say, your single vodka and soda water, it's about 80 calories. If you are looking at your standard glass of wine, now that standard glass of wine at the 130, you can get a pretty dry red wine. I can get the name from Briar because she's got a pretty, you know what, we just had a meeting today and she said there's a pretty dry red wine right now that's pretty low in calories. And I'm going to get that name and I'm going to put it out there in the recap of all of this just so that you've got it. And I think she said it was at about 90 to 100 calories for that one glass of wine. So don't kid yourself either. Now, this is going to be a big, like, eye-opener. So if you're a wine drinker and you're pouring that glass of wine, now you can see kind of like at the middle of the scale, the standard glass of wine and what it looks like. And then if you look further on the right-hand side and you see that really large glass of wine, sometimes that glass of wine is actually double the size of what it's suggesting you to have. So, you know, 4 to 6 ounces of wine can look very different in other glasses where people are like, oh, yeah, it's just a glass of wine. But in the end, it's like actually 2 glasses of wine per. So then your 3 glasses of wine in is really 6, and all of a sudden it just became insane, and it was, you know, a full day's worth of eating or a full day's worth of what you should be eating in just consumption of wine, which I know that seems a little bit crazy, but it creeps up extremely fast. There was a post I was looking at the other day, and it was a pina colada, guys. I love a good pina colada, by the way. If we're away, I would like a pina colada. But anyways, a pina colada, they were saying had like, oh goodness, it was like 480 calories per pina colada, and I thought, oh my God, no one just has 1. So there, you're already done. You have 2, at least 2, and now you've had your pretty much in 2.5 pina coladas, you've had pretty much your entire day of calories in a couple drinks. So that's how it can creep up so fast and get totally out of control. So that's why I say pick your cheats wisely. So if you're going to be out and you're at a party and you're like, hey, you know what, my food's pretty bang on, if you have some vodka soda water or you have a couple glasses of your dry red wine, you're laughing. That next day, you're not hurting. You're not feeling like a big, you know, bag of garbage trying to roll out of bed in the morning and go, oh my gosh, because if you go crazy on both, that's when it can get really, really out of hand. So again, pick your dry red wine or your vodka soda water. Actually, there was a challenger one time for Briar that did this post, and he kind of like did all the breakdown of all the spirits out there, and in the end, tequila was up there, like a really awesome choice because people do shots of tequila, and whoever wants to do that, I have no idea because I would die, but if you do, I feel like 3 shots of tequila, you're not even walking anymore, so that would be it for the night, and woo, you had a really great night on 3 shots of tequila. So if you want to do that, go ahead, but be so great on your food choices. So that is, we're getting close to the end here, guys. We are going to go to tip number 5 about, I think, is the most important tip. Actually, there's some questions coming in. Okay, you know what, guys? I am going to leave those questions for the end. And let me just jot down a couple more. So I am going to address those questions. Just give me 1 sec. Awesome. So don't stress out. Now, this is probably the most important key point about staying challenge friendly or staying on your healthy path is if you have a bad day, when I say who cares, I really, really, really need you to keep hearing those words. Who cares? Replay that over in your mind. Bonnie saying, who cares, who cares, who cares, it's no big deal. That is not the be-all and end-all. If you had a bad day, then that means you get yourself back on track that next morning. That doesn't mean you get yourself back on track that next Monday, which a lot of times happens. So I'll have challengers like, you know, kind of fall off the wagon a little bit, or on a Tuesday, and then a Wednesday got a little bit worse, and then by Thursday, like, forget it. I've blown it. I did so well for the 8 weeks, and now I'm like sliding so horribly, and they go into this really weird downward spiral, and then by, you know, the rest of the weekend is a write-off completely. It goes hog wild and crazy, and then on Monday they try to get back on board, but then they already feel defeated, and I don't want that. So that is something, it is so hard to decondition a brain. I know it, I get it. Everyone, I would say 90% of the world suffers from the same kind of thought process. It's really hard to get yourself back on track when you feel like you have been defeated. But this is the great part. If you don't see it as a defeat, if you see it as a who cares, no big deal, that next morning getting yourself back on track with your regular breakfast that you've been having, I mean, I said in here, start your day off with a green smoothie and a workout because that gets you back on track like that. And if you did have too much to drink before, the night before, you will be detoxing like a crazy person. But if you tell yourself, no, I'm starting myself off with a green smoothie and a workout, then in the end, you already start yourself off on a really high note. I had a challenger tell me the other day, and the challenge had just finished, and she said, oh, gosh, she had a party, and she had drank way too much wine, stayed great on her food, but drank way too much wine. She said that next morning, she said normally she would go do a McDonald's run and go get herself a milkshake to kind of help, like, coat her stomach so that she wasn't dying. And she said she kept thinking in her brain, that's not going to help me. I got to make myself a smoothie, even when you don't feel like drinking it, because it just starts the day off right. If you know what I mean. If you let it go in a downward spiral, that's when the self-sabotage starts to happen more and more and more. And all of a sudden you've sabotaged, yourself, and you're doing it to yourself and you don't know how to stop it. So if you really look at it from a perspective of it's normal, it's life, Bonnie and Briar cheat all the time, who cares? That next morning we're really right back on like the rest of the world, totally no big deal, and really try not to beat yourself up. I know we've talked about it before about the negative self-talk. I cannot stress it enough that it's that negative self-talk over and over and over that really, really, really can set you into a downward spiral. So if you flip it and go, you know what, I'm starting my day off right, let it go. You can't be sitting there worrying about what you did last night, or you can't be sitting there worrying about, oh gosh, I blew it for the whole, 3 days ago. Who cares? That's 3 days ago. That's nothing. In the big picture, 365 days a year, you blow it in that time frame, that's a real big who cares. That's no big deal whatsoever. But it's when you let those little kind of setbacks or those little indulgences all of a sudden dictate, the rest of your day and the rest of your time frame moving forward. I just feel like that is never going to serve you. It's never going to serve your purpose. And your purpose is to keep trying to stay as healthy as you can and to be vibrant and bouncing out of bed in the morning and feeling like you've got a lot of energy to attack the day. But the negative self-talk really can weigh you down. And I'm not talking about weight on the scale, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the weight in the scale. I'm saying it weighs you down mentally. And when you weigh yourself down mentally, that makes it 10,000 times worse than anything that's showing on the scale when you weigh yourself down mentally. So when I say about starting with a green smoothie, I'm going to give one more example of that. This kind of rang true to me. I was listening to a different podcast the other day. This is kind of what Briar and I do with our time is research 24/7, but research that we love. And there was a speaker talking, and she said, if you start your day with a green smoothie, you start off your day with a green smoothie. She said, you have a green smoothie day. And I thought, a green smoothie day? What does she even mean by that? She meant that you pick green smoothie choices all day. I'm not saying you're eating kale for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you make better choices throughout the day if you start your day off with a green smoothie. Now, she said if you start off your day with pancakes and syrup and those sugary, coffee beverages or whatever, you start your day off with that, you pick pancakes and syrup all day. And she's exactly right. If you start your day off with a big pancakes and syrup, heavy, bloated breakfast that's just horrendous and there was nothing good in there for you, you mentally already go, ugh, I feel horrible. And now for the whole rest of the day, it's like the choices weirdly get worse and worse all day. But if you start your day off awesome, it puts you in such a mindset that it's like starting your day with a workout. If you can't work out in the morning, go for a walk. It doesn't have to be this extreme, crazy, kill yourself insanity workout. It's just get moving. get moving, get yourself mentally prepared and mentally clear for the day. So setting those two things up for you, I promise you will make such a gigantic difference. This last quote, before I get into these couple other questions here, this quote, I really, truly think, I want you to read it over and over. I'm going to read it out. It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. Like I said before, this is an absolute journey, but it's a journey that you should embrace because this is your life. This is it. This is all we've got. There's no, you know, reset button that you go, ah, damn, you know, I really feel like I shouldn't have done that over the last, you know, 40 years, and now I've set myself up. No, you can't give a body back and say, okay, give me a fresh one. Let's work on what you've got. And when you make little changes constantly, so you're constantly progressing, and then you're moving forward and moving forward. There's going to be setbacks. I'm not here to tell you it's going to be easy. I'm saying there's setbacks. But again, we go back and say, who cares? A little bit of setback, push forward. A little bit of setback, push forward. So you should always try to keep progressing, because as soon as you stop, if you stopped completely, then in the end, that's when there is no real, I shouldn't say failure, I hate using that word, but I always say really if you're moving forward in any type of direction, you're moving forward. But as soon as you stop, all of a sudden you're stagnant, and then you're not doing anything. If there's one thing that I can leave you with is find something that you can progress with. So if that means that, you know what, maybe this week wasn't that great with your food, but then next week you're making a better choice, or maybe it's once a day you're making a better choice or picking a better breakfast, whatever it is, you're progressing and slowly moving yourself along. And the only thing is you're always in that mode of progression. Remember before that slide a little bit earlier on that said that it is not about perfection, because it's really not. I don't want you to think it is about perfection. It is about persistence. And that persistence is what builds into the most magnificent future, because you're staying persistent and on task with something. I mean, that applies to everything. I mean, I can apply it to, I'm going to get off on a real tangent, but you can apply it in every aspect of your life when it comes to relationship, when it comes to business, when it comes to your career, when it comes to your family, your children. It's always staying persistent and trying. It's like you don't just go, you know what, it's not worth it. Because I think if we can tell ourselves, and even if you don't think right now that you are worth it, you absolutely are, because there's other people in your world that are counting on you. So if they're counting on you, they need you to stay as vibrant and healthy as possible so that you're there to help them as well. So that's why I can't be more kind of passionate about that idea of persistence, because you keep at it. You're slowly just plugging along and making the best out of the situation you're given and letting all the negativity go. So the last quote here, it's not a diet, it's a way of life, again, is something we say constantly, because that's really what we're here to do, is to try to get to, and I mean, I'm not saying it just for you guys, I'm saying it for my own self. The greatest gift Briar and I have is doing this, because it helps us stay in this mode as well, helps the challengers stay in this mode, and everybody is just, we're all working towards a better goal. And that better goal is just a better version of ourselves. This isn't, you know, compare yourself to your next door neighbor kind of goal. This is, how are you doing? How are you feeling? You know, are you feeling like you're in a positive state of mind and really able to tackle all of the life's throwing at you? Because that's what it's about. That's really what it all comes down to. This picture here on the left-hand side, seeing the difference between lean muscle tissue and looking at fat like that, I think is so dire important. So when you are doing, you know, when you are eating right and you are exercising, you're building a lot of lean muscle and a lot of lean tissue. And that lean tissue is a lean, mean burning machine comparative to kind of like that blob of just, it almost looks like lard, but it's just like that blob of fat. It probably is lard. But when it comes down to it, it's kind of a good visual that you go, hey, you know what, this is all for something better, and it's not better aesthetically, it's better for my insides. So the less actual visceral fat or the abdominal fat that you have is actually better for your organs. So again, your organs are going to function so much more efficiently if they are not being bombarded all the time and kind of bogged down, and if you're carrying a lot of visceral fat, which is your belly fat. You know the measurement that we take that's kind of right below your belly button? That's the fat I'm talking about. It's pretty, it's detrimental and damaging when it comes to even diabetes, also when it comes to all of your visceral organs and their function. So that's why we speak so wholeheartedly about health and how you can change your own health just by making some of these pretty, to me, seems like it's not rocket science. This is pretty, I would say, it's normal. I mean, it's normal for us now. I mean, I know in the end it could be a little bit difficult for someone that's just starting out. But anyways, you guys have already been through the challenge. You know how beneficial it is. So with that being said, I'm just going to go over a couple questions. Well, question came up. What about chicken broth, and what chicken broth out there is challenge friendly? There's a chicken broth that Costco used to carry. You'll see it on your Costco list. I think it was called Wholesome Goodness or something like that. It was totally challenge friendly, and then they discontinued it a couple months ago. So we have deemed any chicken broth challenge friendly as long as it is low in sodium. So any low sodium out there, chicken broth, bang on and fantastic. We love it. Just make sure it's low in sodium. That can be chicken broth, that can be vegetable broth, that can be beef broth. So if it has a little bit of sugar added too, then it kind of discounts the idea, or the notion, and it really does, that there's a lot of sodium in broth. So I would love you to pick a low sodium chicken broth, also, or sorry, a low sodium broth. If you are, when it comes to broth, a really good tip when it comes to broth, if you are starting a saute, start with broth, because that will be absolutely fantastic. And then also you can start, with your chicken broth. I love to cook my quinoa in chicken broth, and I love to cook my brown rice in chicken broth, because I do find that broth, if I'm cooking brown rice or cooking quinoa in just water, I find it really doesn't have much flavor to it. You can make your own chicken broth as well. That question just came in. Darn right you can, absolutely. Cook down your bones, and absolutely you can. So that's a question about the chicken broth, and if we could look at the next question, what if my, oh, this is a good one. What if my family, I think we kind of covered this one. What if my family doesn't want to go along with me and my husband's resisting? Okay, now that goes back to my point with the children. So if the children are resisting, you know, you focus on yourself. If your spouse is resisting, goes back to the same answer. Focus on yourself. So, I mean, if your husband or your spouse, your partner or whatever, if they're eating a different way than you, one really good tip I would say is try not to, you don't have to convert them. They will come to it on their own. So if you try to kind of slam it down their throat a little bit, sometimes you can get very like a lot of backs up and being really resistant, especially when it comes to your loved ones and family members. They'll come to it in their own time frame, so don't feel like you have to push, but also hopefully you don't have to if you're the one primarily doing the cooking, hopefully your partner or your spouse goes along with it so that you don't have to make a whole heck of a lot of different meals. But anyway, so that's my theory. When you are feeling strong and awesome and you feel like you've got this licked and you are bang on and are not veering and feeling really strong with it, then it's a little bit easier to convince, and then you can play around in the kitchen a little bit, or again, pick them up something that's fast food, that's challenge friendly, and then kind of convert them slowly that way. What about here's a question. What about on Christmas that someone is going to their in-laws for Christmas and they are not going to have any challenge-friendly food? Now, it's Christmas. My answer to that is, who cares? Christmas Day, if you're going to someone's house and you're not having a challenge-friendly Christmas, don't have a challenge-friendly Christmas. That's okay. And reducing the stress, or kind of letting go of that stress and not concerning yourself with it, I promise you that will do you better than to do the flip. If you sit there and worry and stress out about it, and if you typically are a worrier and stress out quite a bit, then you need to do a little bit of self-work before you go to almost like build yourself up to just enjoy. Just enjoy, live it up, don't even think twice about it, and really then that next morning, so Boxing Day, if you're in your own house, then you make yourself, what do you make? You make a green smoothie. Start your day off with a green smoothie and maybe go out for a walk with the family, or go out for a walk before the kids or the family even gets up if you're on your own, and just to clear your head and kind of enjoy the Christmas time frame and really take that time to reflect on the awesome changes that you've made over this year. Because guys, in order to, the time and effort, or the amount of effort that it takes to really make these changes and everything that you've done, a lot of times I find that people don't celebrate themselves enough and celebrate their own efforts and all of that kind of great stuff. So you need to take that time and go, you know what, this is worth it. Actually, my brain just went, again, I will go off on different tangents. I'm just going to touch on this and then we're going to sign off here. There was a question that came in from by email today to me that someone asked about meditation. What do we think about meditation? Do we meditate ourselves? Meditation I'm in love with, and a lot of years, it's taken me a lot of years to even slowly start to move into meditation. But how I said before, it's completely mental. Our entire life, it's a mental game that we play with ourselves when it comes to business, relationships, career, family, all of it, it's mental. And in order to keep yourself on track, there is an app that I have been using, and again, I will put this in the notes and kind of like I called in the show notes, but I will put this in the recap afterwards, but it's an app called Headspace, and Headspace are for people that haven't meditated before and haven't got into the whole meditation world yet, which I was just starting, and Headspace is a 10-minute meditation every day. It's an app, it's free for 10 days, and you can go at it at your own pace. But I found it really beneficial. After the 10 days, you can convert into, it's still really cheap. It's like a couple bucks a month or something like that. It's not that expensive. But I do find it's wonderful, and especially going into this busy holiday season is probably a very beneficial thing to kind of start a new practice, and starting off the day with a meditation practice or finishing your evening with a meditation practice. It's only 10 minutes. So I mean, just to kind of zone out a little bit and take a little bit of time just to refocus, recharge, and get yourself all ready for the next day or to start your day, I think it's pretty magnificent and awesome. So I hope we cleared up all the questions that were coming through. And yeah, if there's anything else that you guys wanted me to cover that you want me to go over, that would be fantastic. And I want to thank you so much for sitting in and just really, I think someone's trying to share their screen here. Oh, I don't even know how to stop that. But yeah, for sitting in and taking the time, because it's a really busy time. So in the end, I could not be happier, and thank you so much. I'll recap all of this, and I will send it off in the PowerPoint as well in a follow-up email. So thank you so much, guys. Happy holidays. And again, our next challenge is January 18th. And if you want to get a team together, there is, if you have a team of 6 or more, you get your challenge for free. But you register first, and then everybody else would register underneath of you. So I hope you guys enjoyed it tonight, and thank you so much for taking the time.